The DDR inside of the TriCaster is a powerful media playback device. It allows us to play back video clips, audio clips, and still files. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we use the DDR in the TriCaster. The DDR is found in the DDR tab in the TriCaster Broadcast and Studio. It's found in the DDR and Picture tab in the other versions of the TriCaster. And it, again, allows us to play back a variety of file formats. All of the clips that we're going to play back inside of the TriCaster's DDR are going to come from the internal drive in the TriCaster. Now, we can get these clips into the TriCaster either by capturing them through the analog inputs in the front using the capture panel in the TriCaster, which we'll cover a little bit later. We could also use the USB or FireWire ports to hook up external hard drives or thumb drives to get clips onto the hard drive. We also have a gigabit Ethernet connection in the back of the TriCaster, allowing us to connect the TriCaster to any network and bump clips across the network into the TriCaster's hard drive. Once the clips are on the hard drive, we're ready to load them into the DDR. We see our DDR right here and all of its controls to the right of it. If we have two DDRs, the controls to the right are the controls for that DDR. So we're going to work with DDR number 1 right now. And as we look through its controls, we can see that we have a selection and a list mode. Now, once we have some clips loaded up, selection is going to play just the clip that's currently selected, and list is going to play the entire list of clips as one project. We also have the ability to loop either the selection or the list. We have a counter which shows us the progression through the clip, and one thing about the counter is you can click on the numbers of the counter to toggle it between a count down and a count up. I prefer using count down as it shows me how much time I have left in that clip before I have to transition out to another element in my live production. Here we have our transport controls. We have stop, play, rewind, fast forward, and pause. We also have a cue mode, which we'll talk about in just a moment. We do have a jog shuttle down below, which allows us to shuttle through the clip. And we also have some variable speed playback controls. These are actually buttons that we can press while we're playing the clip back to play the clip back in slow motion, a little bit faster, again. Normal speed here, and you can see that the play button engages when we click on the normal speed button, and then faster than normal speed. Clicking on the yellow button in the middle puts us back into stop, and then we have all of the same controls going in reverse. Down at the bottom we have our file I/O. This is where we can add clips. If we want to add clips into the DDR, we click on the add button. It will bring up our requester. Inside of the requester, again, we can click on the clip shortcut to get us to our clip folder. And from within the clip folder, we can add clips. Now, we can hold down the control key, and the TriCaster will remember the order in which we click on clips. And when we go ahead and load them, they will load in that order. We also, if we hit the add button, can directly drag clips from the bin directly into the DDR. Once we get clips into the DDR, we can go ahead and put them in whatever order we want the clips to play back in, simply by left-clicking on them and dragging them into the order that we want them to play back. Now, one thing to keep in mind when working with clips, especially large numbers of clips, is when we load a clip into the DDR, it does a little bit of processing on this clip. It wants to create the icon for the front and back and things of that nature. This takes a little bit of processing time, but if you're in the middle of a live production and you dump 50 clips into a DDR and they've not been recognized previously, it's going to have to go through the process of recognizing each one of these clips. And if you're doing other processes inside the TriCaster at that time, this can cause the interface to slow down a little bit, or even stutter, or momentarily lock up. It will come back and your output should not be interrupted, but you will have no control over the interface for a short period of time. A way around this is to make sure that any clips that you're going to use during your live presentation, load them into the DDR ahead of time before the presentation starts and let the TriCaster recognize them. It does write them into a cache file, and once they've been recognized one time, it doesn't have to recognize them again. They will instantly show up and be available for playback from that point forward. Now, we also have a remove button down here, and this is to remove clips. Again, if I select a clip and hit the remove button, it will take it out of the DDR. Of course, it's just removing it from the DDR, not from the hard drive. Now, we can also select a clip and just hit the delete key on the keyboard. We can also multiply select clips. We can either click on a clip and hold down Control for multiple selection, just like in Windows, or we can click on a clip and hold down Shift, and it will select all the clips in between the two clips that we select. And again, if I wanted to get rid of them, I could just hit the delete key on the keyboard or the remove key. Now, we also have a clone key. Clone key will allow us to clone a clip. So if I have a clip that's pretty long, I'm going to come down here and clone this clip a couple of times. And I have the ability to set in and out points on clips. Notice that when the mouse is over the left side icon of the clip, it turns into an in cursor. And on the right side icon, it's an out cursor. So this means I can set an in point for the clip, and I can set an out point for the clip. So again, if I've got a clip that's reasonably long, I could come through and I could clone it a few times and then set different in and out points for each iteration of the clip, in essence doing some basic cuts-only editing right here within the DDR. Now, what kind of file formats can we play back as far as video in the DDR? The DDR will play back a wide variety of file formats, but we recommend using either DV Type 2 AVIs or using our own file format that comes with the TriCaster. The reason being, even though the DDR will play back clips of other file formats, different file formats use up different amounts of CPU overhead. So we want to make sure that no matter what you're doing in the TriCaster, you can do everything that the TriCaster does simultaneously. If we put, for instance, HD clips in there, which you could do, and it would play them and scale them, it's going to take a lot more CPU overhead to do that. So if I'm trying to do many other things, record the output, stream, archive the stream, do a switch with virtual sets and motion overlays, I may get to a point where the CPU can't handle it. If you use our file format that comes with the TriCaster, you're never going to have this issue. Our file format also supports alpha channel, so you can use it in just about every case that you would ever run into in a live production. Now, how can we convert your file format into our file format? We'll cover that just a little bit later when we get into the nonlinear editor. We have two more buttons on the interface. We have Load and Save Playlist, and these allow us to do exactly that. We can set up a list of clips, and we can save them as a playlist. We simply click Save Playlist. We navigate to where we want to go. And again, when we're navigating in the requester, in the TriCaster, you get the path along the top here, and any portion of this path is clickable. So if I click on TriCaster, it's going to take me to the root. Now I click on my D drive, I go into Media, I go into Clips, or in this case, I'll go into Playlists, and this is where I'm going to save all my playlists and load my playlists. So I can simply give this a name. This is Playlist A. And now, if I clean this out, I'm just going to left click and drag a box over all of the clips inside of the DDR and hit the delete key. If I want to get those videos back, I simply say Load Playlist. We load up Playlist A, and I instantly have all my clips back. Now, as I said before, we can also play back audio from in the DDR, and there is an interesting way of using audio clips along with other media in the DDR. I'm going to go ahead and clean out this playlist, and let's say I wanted to play back a few still files. I'm going to go ahead and find the still images, and we support a wide variety of file formats, Targa, PNG, JPEG, most of the normal file formats. And again, if I want to bring these pictures in a specific order, I can hold down Control and click on them in the order that I want to bring them in, and then go ahead and click Open. They show up in that order, ready to go. Now let's say that I want to play this as a slideshow, and I want to have a music bed underneath it. Well, the first thing that I can do is each of the pictures comes in at 5-second duration. I can change the duration simply by hovering over the end, either end of the clip, and adjusting the length. I'm going to leave them at 5 seconds. If I want to play music on top of this, I could, if I have a second DDR, play it from the second DDR. But even if I'm just working with one DDR, I'm going to go ahead and add a music clip. And let's go ahead and just bring this music clip down. And I'm going to drag it right into the DDR, and I'm going to make it the second clip in the DDR. I'm going to go ahead and click on the very first clip and tell the DDR that I want to play the list. When it starts playing this back, it's going to play the pictures and the music. Let's go ahead and bring up this DDR, and I'll hit the play button. So as you can see, we can drop a music clip right in underneath either the first video clip or the first still, and that audio file will play throughout the entire project while the rest of the media inside of the playlist plays back as well. Now again, loading and saving playlists is very valuable here because I could make a playlist of all my stills. We could also create a playlist of our video clips for, let's say, hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. So we can streamline the workflow. So we're not trying to wade through long lists of clips to find what we need. Everything is right there at our fingertips. Again, as long as we load all the clips in and let them process before we start our live production, playlists will load up practically instantaneously, allowing you to change out all of the media that you have access to inside of the DDR. If you are working with a TriCaster Broadcast or a TriCaster Studio, you have two DDRs. And I recommend that you prioritize your work a little bit. Use one as your still store and one as your video playback. Use one as your audio bed and one as your video playback. You can also use the DDRs as an overlay source to do motion overlays over top of your live video outputs. We'll talk about that when we get into overlays. But again, when I have two DDRs, I like to prioritize. So I'll put all of my overlays in DDR number 2, and I'll put all my video clips in DDR number 1. That way I never make a mistake playing the wrong type of clip at the wrong time. Now, we also have the Q mode inside of our DDR, and the Q mode is the most powerful feature of the DDR in my opinion. I'm going to go ahead and clean out some of these videos that we have in here right now. And again, I'm going to simply go to Load Playlist, and I'm going to load up Playlist A that we had a little bit earlier. And I've got several clips in here defined, even though some of them are defined out of the same clip. It doesn't matter. They all have different in and out points, and each clip has its duration right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the DDR, I'm going to select the first clip. We're going to put it in selection mode. We're going to make sure that loop is turned off. And we're going to put it in Q mode. Once it's in Q mode, it's an automatic DDR. And what I mean by that is I'm going to bring it up on preview. I'm going to choose a transition that I want to use to switch to it, and I'm going to hit the space bar. And as soon as I switch to it, it plays the clip. The clip pre-rolls and plays. Again, I'm in countdown mode. I see how much time I have. I'll say, let's come back to camera 1. Let's go ahead and use a different transition. Okay, we're back in 5, 4, 3. The TriCaster does the transition automatically when the clip is done playing back to whatever camera you have selected, and queues up the next clip in the DDR. As you see in the DDR now, the next clip is already queued and ready to go. The only thing I need to do to activate it is to switch back to the DDR. I simply hit the space bar. That clip starts playing. Again, let's go to camera 2 when we're done, and let's use a fade this time on the way out. I see my countdown. We're back in 5, 4, 3. And again, the TriCaster switches back to me on camera and queues up the next clip in my DDR. It's like having a virtual tape operator built right into the TriCaster, always pre-rolling the clip for you and queuing up the next clip after the last clip has been completed.